All right, so from clicking on this title, no, it's not clickbait. There's definitely a premise behind why I named this video the way I did in the title and the screen. Now you guys see that I review swords on this channel all the time. I love all blades, but premise on this channel, the foundation of this channel was in katana. I review many different katana. I have a lot of vendors that basically recognize me as reviewing katana, and I get a lot of samples from different companies reviewing katana. In terms of that word, katana, what brought this video about was the fact that I get comments from time to time when I release shorts where I actually have these review sample katana in the videos. One particular comment I just got, and I don't mean to signal anybody out, I get many of these comments, but this one comment that kind of triggered this off, and I guess I won't name it, I'll just explain to you exactly what it is. And he had mentioned, how can you title this katana, how can you title this particular sword katana when it wasn't made in Japan? And then he starts saying how, he purchased with so-and-so amount of yen a particular katana or a sword that was made in Japan, and he would consider that a katana. So demographics-wise, he's saying that this sword, because it was made in China or made any place out of Japan, should not be called a katana. Now, this is a talking head video, so if you guys haven't clicked off already, I thank you for joining me. Thank you for basically just kind of sticking around and going through this with me. I think it's interesting to kind of step away from the reviews sometimes and talk about the particular thing that you're reviewing itself, the meaning of it in society in today's terms, and yesterday's terms for that matter. So my answer to this individual who commented to me, and anyone else who kind of brings this up, if you strictly interpret the katana as solely a sword of the samurai, then technically no sword today can ever be considered or called a katana, because the samurai class of people does not exist anymore. Many may interpret a katana synonymous with the samurai. So the samurai hasn't walked this earth for almost 200 years. If we go with popular culture, we talk about The Last Samurai, Saigō Takamori's role in the Satsuma Rebellion of 1877, and we all know basically how that ended, in terms of the history book. That's approaching about 200 years since the last samurai walked this earth. There is no need, Japan has no need for the samurai anymore, and has no need for a katana to be made for a samurai. So technically speaking, no sword today can be called or should be called a katana, because the katana, the samurai sword, died with the samurai many years ago. So if we want to be technical, if people want to be technical as far as saying, oh, that shouldn't be called a katana, hey, your sword made in Japan today should not even be called a katana, because technically speaking, the katana has been dead with the samurai and buried for many hundreds of years. While the samurai class is gone, the term katana is still used to describe a sword with the traditional Japanese katana design, even if it is made and used today by non-samurai users. The term katana has grown into a new meaning, or a meaning all its own, a lot bigger than what the physical characteristic of what the katana was. The katana today is actually considered an iconic symbol of Japanese culture, not just of the samurai. Now, the term Nihanto means a Japanese sword, or a sword made in Japan. Now, the Nihanto is still being made in Japan. In fact, there are laws in Japan that say you are not allowed to own in your own home a Japanese sword, or a Nihanto, or a katana that was not made by the traditional method made in Japan as the Nihanto. So they're actually not allowed to own swords that are made out of Japan. Now, arguably, the Nihanto in modern times that is made is probably one of the finest, or if not arguably the finest sword that is made on the planet. It would be a pleasure to own one of those. Can you call that a katana? Can you call that a katana? Or is it simply still a Nihanto, a sword that is made in Japan? But again, looking past that, they're not just weapons, they are symbols of honor, discipline, a mastery in martial arts. They also represent Japan's metallurgical techniques that are pretty much unsurpassed, even in today's day and age. Although you can get makers like Howard Clark or Walter Soros that make beautiful pieces of work in terms of their blades. That's if you wanted the best of the best. But listen, as we all know, these swords, let's call them katana right now for argument's sake, these swords, these katana are being made throughout the world, predominantly in China. In Langquan, China, there's many different forges that make some really beautiful pieces of work. If you look at this particular sword here, this katana here that was made by Shadow Dancer, this is probably one of the finest in my collection right now. Made extremely well. This is also with some not traditional mahogany. This is S5 steel, but the make of this sword is very intricate in detail in terms of the tsukamaki, the fittings, the saya, how everything is made, the way it cuts, the way it feels, and the way it's balanced. This is considered a very beautiful high-end type of sword. It's not an evolution blade, it's not a Howard Clark, but it is a Chinese-made sword that's considered a very well-made sword. Now, my argument would also be, if you get a sword like this made in S5 or other types of brands that make swords like evolution blades, I believe that these swords will outperform even the traditional swords that are made in Japan right now, Nihanto, in the tamahogany fashion, because the swords of today are a lot stronger than the swords that were made in tamahogany steel. Again, that's my opinion, and a lot of people do support that. So the premise of this video is more of a question to you. Is the katana dead? Did the katana die with the samurai back in the 1800s? Did it live its full lifespan but finally met its end with the last samurai that walked this earth? Can the swords made today be called katana? My simple answer is, any sword that's made today that is called a katana is really a recreation of a traditional Japanese sword that was once called the katana. For argument's sake, not to confuse it, we obviously call them katana. There's just certain things that don't have to be said, don't have to be explained every time you review a video. In China, they are making some incredible swords, some incredibly high quality swords. And not just now, for hundreds and hundreds of years, almost 1,000 years, even making Chinese swords. They probably deliver some of the best products in the world that, yes, can probably outperform even the swords of yesterday. So would it not be fair to still call them katana? But we understand that when we do these reviews, and I can speak for my fellow reviewers of katana or Japanese style weapons, when we do these reviews, we are obviously implying that these are recreations of the traditional age of katana, which was synonymous with the samurai sword. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to hear your opinions on this matter. But I just kind of wanted to clear the air. When I do review these swords, I am implying the fact that it is not an actual katana. It's not a samurai sword, because samurais have not been around for many years. These are all, as beautiful as they are and as good as a duplicate and recreation that they may be, some a lot better than others, but all pretty much follow the same schematic of what a traditional Japanese katana should be. And as good as they are, I still imply the fact that they are recreations of the katana. We can move forward and not have to always criticize when we review these swords and call them katana, because they are obviously recreations. Because as an opinion based on fact, the katana did die out many hundreds of years ago with the samurai. The tradition of the Japanese culture lives on, and lives on in these recreations, and they are damn beautiful. A subscribe, a share, and a like will always help me out to kind of grow my channel. A new Dragon King, which is part of their modern line. Okay, this is a new Wakizashi, the version 2 Wakizashi with the bohei. Excellent looking blade, a lot better, a big improvement over the version 1. So that sword is coming soon, along with everything else that you are used to seeing on my channel. Much appreciated, guys, and I'll see you in the next sword or knife video. And be respectful to each other. We're all in this together. Let's have a good time with these historical weapons. Recreations or not, they made really, really well today. Peace out, everybody. Ciao.